Hey, aloha, everybody, and welcome to the 69th edition of Coffee with Coach. Get your Joe, get your beer, whatever you're drinking, get with us because we got a great show lined up for you. Going to start right out, going to come right out of the chute with one of our favorite guests and a guy that played for a long time in the National Football League. He doesn't look old enough to have played for a long time in the National Football League, but Nick Ferguson, ex Denver Bronco, ex New York Jet, ex Houston Texan, ex Buffalo Bill, uh, played in the league for a long time as a safety, all pro alternate, and really one of the better tacklers ever to play in the National Football League. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
Hey, now again, you have taken your NFL, pedigree, if you will, used it in coaching. He coached for the San Francisco 49ers for a year and decided to jump into this crazy media business. And you are now a talk. And I described you this way, and I think it might even be an understatement. I said you are a talk show icon in the Denver area.
Well, I don't know if I'm a talk show icon, but what I do here in Denver is I definitely tell the truth. And I can't always say that the fan base loves me for giving, my bit of truth. But sometimes, this, the truth is a hard pill to swallow. So I just serve it up, and you can either choose the red or the blue pill.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something. I have known you for, God, it's been since I don't know, 96 or 97. And one thing that's always been true about Nick Ferguson, he's going to tell you exactly what's on his mind. He ain't going to sugarcoat it, and it's going to come out exactly the way he wants it to.
Exactly. That's the only way to be, because it's all about being as honest as you can with your listening audience. And there's enough individuals out here that are filling the fan base with lies and just having them to buy these false narratives. Someone's got to come in and actually tell them the truth, even if they don't want to embrace it.
Okay, now let's get into that topic a little bit. And let's talk about a team that is 3-0 for the first time in September in a long time, and a team that many people said was going to struggle this year, a team that was, turning its back, if you will, on a first round draft choice quarterback to bring in a quote retread, a guy that everybody said couldn't get it done, had overcome a tremendous knee injury in his career. Teddy Bridgewater went to Carolina, had the starting job in Carolina, and Carolina gave up on him for Sam Darnold. All right. Now he's in Denver. He's got his football team to 3-0, but yet you sense in the Denver community that there's no love for Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, it is a lot of that going around, and you would think that it would be a little different, Jeff, consider the fact that this team hasn't been relevant since Peyton Manning was the quarterback. And all George Payton decided to do was like, listen, I know we were struggling with the quarterback position. I want to go grab a guy that I'm comfortable with. Yeah, he may not be Aaron Rodgers, but I know last season Teddy Bridgewater was fourth in the NFL in completions behind guys like an Aaron Rodgers. So you know that he was a guy that was going to keep the offense in some sort of a flow, and he was going to keep them on schedule. But the Broncos fans, they didn't want that. They wanted Drew Lock, because Drew Lock was perceived as, to give you a little of Star Wars reference, but he was perceived as being the last hope for one John Elway, who still hasn't been able to draft and develop a quarterback that can come in and kind of cement that position. So Drew Lock was viewed as being, hey, the guy in the last hope. And now you bring in Teddy Bridgewater, a guy who you can call a journeyman, you can call him a retread. All I know is the guy makes no matter wherever he plays, the defensive units are always happy because he's not turning the ball over. He's keeping them on the sideline. And oh, by the way, once they come back, he scored some points. So now you're able to put pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. To me, that's what I saw in Teddy Bridgewater. Not a guy who can be a 5-year type of guy, but he can come in and he can be really serviceable for 2 to 3 years. But that's not what the fan base wanted. They were highly upset when George Payton named Teddy Bridgewater the starting quarterback. So much so, Jeff, that they took to Twitter to allow their expressions, as everyone loves to go on Twitter and use their 280 characters, but just to let their frustration be known how they didn't really like this. We're tired of journeyman quarterbacks. And trust me, I get it. But when John Elway can't field a quality quarterback and you have to go get retreads, as though you said, from other teams because you can't draft and develop your guys, I understand that as a fan base. But at the same time, do you want to win freaking ball games at the end of the day? If Teddy Bridgewater allows you to do it, fine. Heck, if Jeff Reinebold allows you to win football games, then we're going to roll with Jeff Reinebold. But it's hard trying to explain that to fans here because fandom, as you know, it's a real thing. And sometimes fans can be real crazy.
Okay, so let's talk about this because I think this is a great point. I think that George Payton was comfortable with Teddy Bridgewater, and I know for a fact that Pat Shurmur was more than comfortable with Teddy Bridgewater because when he was with the Giants, he had talked about bringing Teddy Bridgewater to the Giants, and I think that says an awful lot. The ability for a coaching staff and an offensive coordinator to have comfort with the guy who's really the extension of the offensive coordinator on the field, and that's the quarterback, I think is very, very critical. Remember, this is a what have you done for me lately right now industry. This isn't about 3 years down the road, 5 years down the road. And I think that's particularly true when you look at Vic Fangio. This is, let's make no mistake about it. This is a crucial year in the Fangio regime in Denver. So winning football games has got to be the number one priority.
Well, Jeff, you're using entirely too much logic by presenting those facts, and these are real facts. I mean, you've been a coach for a while. You know how this works. We don't care about what's happening 5 years down the line. We just only care about the 5 to 6 feet in front of our face. And Vic Fangio was staring at a situation where, hey, he hasn't really done that well from a coaching standpoint, being, posting 2 years below 500. He needed to win some ball games, but more importantly, he needed to win some ball games in September to reassure George Payton that, hey, listen, if we want to roll with you after this, we can definitely do that. But the only way you do that, you have to win football games. And the Broncos are 3-0. And it's just, once again, it's just still astonishing that there are certain fans that are waiting for the other shoe to drop instead of celebrating the fact that you're actually 3-0 in the month of September. You haven't done that in the past 2 years, but you're talking about, wait till they face this team, right? We're really going to see what the team is made of. I'm like, are you a diehard Broncos fan or not? Because to listen to some of the fans on our text lines and the call-in, it seemed as though they're not Broncos fans. It seemed like they are Raiders fans. And I'm like, if you are looking down on a team like that, Jeff, we don't need you. Go somewhere else. We don't need you.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. It's amazing to me that football teams are such an interesting dynamic, right? There's you've got 60 alpha males in a room and all kinds of egos and all of it. But what I sense and what you told me that the defensive players, and I think in almost every football team that I've ever been associated with, the strongest personalities are on the defensive side of the ball. And the defensive players with the Broncos have really embraced Teddy, really embraced him. Now, they spoke highly of Drew Lock in the offseason, but now you hear Von Miller say, we haven't had leadership like that since 18 was here. And I think that speaks volumes about how that football team feels about their leader.
Well, it does. And, once again, it makes Drew Lock look bad as a leader, because it's one thing, and you know how this works, it's one thing when we are playing together and I go to the podium and they ask me a question about my quarterback. Of course, I'm going to toe the company line, even if I don't believe it. But now hearing some of these guys say what they're saying about Teddy Bridgewater when they did not say any of these things ever about Drew Lock, it definitely tells you the level of leadership. And to kind of give you an example of what the leadership has been like for Teddy Bridgewater, Garrett Bowles struggled a lot last year, the year before, and he received a lot of holding penalties. The fans were really down on him, so much so that John Elway was even thinking about not bringing him back and picking up the fifth-year option. But he played so well that they decided, okay, well, Here's a tackle that we don't have to go draft, and we can kind of reward a guy that's been in our system for a while. So they went out and did that. And when Teddy first came to the Denver Broncos, he met Garrett Bowles. And he did something that I was really impressed with, and so was Garrett, that when they met, I mean, Teddy knew his wife's name. He knew the names of his kids, their ages, and whatever issues that they might have been dealing with. But that's what you do when you are a leader of men. And for Garrett Bowles, who's taken a lot of shots from the Broncos country, to have a quarterback walk in and do that, that's rather important. Here's something else that Teddy did. During training camp, he had the athletic equipment guys, rather, to put KJ Hamler's locker right next to his, right? Once again, that is showing a certain level of leadership. And in practice, when Drew Lock would get with Brett Rippon when the team was on some kind of water break, where was Teddy Bridgewater? He was over on the defensive side of the ball talking to Vaughn, talking to Justin Simmons, talking to KJ, making sure that he was getting to know those guys. And even when Teddy threw interceptions in practice, right, those guys would converse back and forth. Hey, this is what I saw, Teddy. So maybe you want to make sure that you are aware of this. Also, when Teddy threw an interception, a touchdown, he would tell the defensive guys, this is why I was able to throw this touchdown versus this defense either out in the field or in the red zone. So there were constant talking, and you know how important it is for teams to galvanize and really kind of come together as a team, but more importantly, behind their quarterback. So this is why I'm not shocked at what I'm seeing. But here's what I do know. It doesn't matter if Broncos fans still don't want to get on board with Teddy Bridgewater. The defensive guys, they don't give a damn because they know they now finally have their quarterback who's going to make life easy for them. And Von Miller, who's on an expiring deal, you bet he wants to get after the quarterback because more sacks mean more money for him. And the only way that he can do that is if you have a quarterback that can move the ball down the field and he doesn't turn it over. And Teddy Bridgewater is that guy.
All right, now we're 3 weeks in. They're 3-0, and obviously you're 2 games up on Kansas City in your division, which is a great place to be as you get to the end of the month of September. Nick, in your opinion, as a guy who played the game in Denver and knows the pulse of that team extremely well, you got your ear to the ground and you got your finger on the pulse of that team very close. What's the end game for the Broncos? What do you see this team being able to accomplish in the next 14 games?
Well, it's getting to the playoffs. That's part of the standard. That was part of the culture when I was part of the team, and that's something they haven't done here in the past 4 or 5 years. So that's kind of the first step. Let's get to the playoffs. And hey, it may be a wild card. So what? It's better than where we were a couple of years ago. And once you get into the tournament, you know how this works. I mean, it's anyone's game at that particular point. And knowing that Kansas City, you got a 2-game lead on them, and they're having their issues right now. So if you're the Denver Broncos, you can go out there and handle your business Sunday against Baltimore, then follow that up with Pittsburgh, and then a short week against Cleveland. Now the conversation is a little different at that particular point. And now everyone's talking about the Broncos being a dark horse in the playoffs. And that's how you want people to definitely talk about you because, once again, you know how this works. If you have a competent quarterback and you're not turning the ball over and you can get after the opposing quarterbacks, get sacks, and create turnovers, that's a winning formula. And I don't care who your quarterback is.
Well, you're talking about 3-game stretch that I think is really going to be critical for them. And a 3-game stretch that, frankly, in the offseason might have appeared tougher than it may be, right? Baltimore's given up a lot of points. They had to go to a 66-yard field goal to beat the Detroit Lions last week. Pittsburgh has struggled. They're nicked up. And again, Cleveland, is a good football team, but you know how important confidence is. And when a team feels like they've got a chance to win every week, I think that's such a critical thing. This is a critical stretch as I look at it for the Broncos.
No, without a doubt, it is a critical stretch. But let me go back to those Broncos fans again, those Debbie Downers. They're looking at this 3-game stretch to say, see, I told you the Broncos were not as good as everyone thought they were. And also, this would have been a great time to plug and play one Drew Lock. See, the Broncos made a mistake. George Payton made a mistake. I say, you know what? I call tomfoolery on all those Broncos fans who think that way, right? The idea is games are going to be tough in the NFL. But what we're seeing that anyone is beatable. I mean, if it wasn't for a Tucker 66-yard field goal that hit the upright and then went over, Baltimore lose the game against Detroit. And then you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're not as great as most people think. They have injuries, and Ben Roethlisberger is not playing his best football. In Cleveland, the only thing that scares me about Cleveland is their defense. From the offensive side, Odell Beckham Jr. is coming back, but is he still rounding into form? We don't know. They have Higgins, and you look at some of the other receivers that they have, like Jarvis Landry, he didn't play. So they're still dealing with injuries. But one thing that the Cleveland Browns can do, they can get after the quarterback to a tune of 9 sacks against Justin Fields in Chicago. That's the only team, Jeff, to be totally honest. And I wouldn't have said this 2 years ago, but that's the only team that scares me right now is Cleveland.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out because, again, one thing Cleveland can do, in addition to play defense, they can run the football, and I think that's going to be big for Denver. But Denver, again, that's the wheelhouse. That's the strength of that. The defense, in my mind, is the strength of that Denver team. One concern, Hamler with the injury. What are they going to do to replace his playmaking ability?
Well, here's a great thing about the Broncos. I mean, they have Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Deontay Spencer, a guy that you're quite familiar with from his CFL days. He was just only viewed as being a returner, so now he's going to have to be inserted into the offense. But more importantly, the Broncos have 3 tight ends that they can utilize: Eric Saubert, Albert Okwuegbunam, and Noah Fant. Now, here's the only problem that I have, right? You have these guys as talented receiving options, but Pat Shurmur sometimes seems to lack creativity in his play calling and his schemes. Because I said, well, we have 3 quality tight ends that we can utilize, while some teams are only using 1. Darren Waller with the Las Vegas Raiders, Travis Kelce with Kansas City, and you look at Dalton Schultz, who's operating with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, even Kellen Moore as a young play caller, he's finding ways to get Dalton Schultz involved. I'm like, why can't we do that with 3 of our tight ends? And this lack of creativity is causing problems because we have a talented guy in Noah Fant, and we're not even utilizing him well. So to me, it's like, why in the hell would you have talent like that and you don't utilize him? So this is going to be a big game, not just for the Broncos as a team, but for Pat Shurmur as a play caller. Can you create some plays to get your tight ends involved? Because you know this just as well as I know. When you have great pass-catching tight ends, it make it really difficult for defenses to kind of scheme plans to kind of slow down and stop those guys.
All right, now let's expand away from the Broncos because, again, you watched very closely the games. The AFC West, how do you see the AFC West playing out? Because it is a tough division.
Well, yeah, I said this at the very beginning, and I've been a part of the AFC West when it's happened. We've had 3 teams make the playoffs. So there's a strong possibility that 3 teams can make the playoffs. I mean, we just watched the Chargers defeat Kansas City, forcing some Patrick Mahomes into some error throws. You look at the Las Vegas Raiders, they're playing, good football. Now, the only problem is Josh Jacobs is injured, and if he comes back, you have to wonder how far can he take them. But then you look at the Broncos, the way that they're playing, not turning the ball over, playing great defense. So it's going to be really interesting coming down the stretch to see how these teams play. And I guess, depending on how you look at it, fortunate or unfortunate for the Broncos, towards the back end of the schedule, they have Kansas City, they have the Las Vegas Raiders, and they have the Chargers. So the winner of the division or who gets into the playoffs is going to come down to those last couple of games.
Who stays healthy is always going to be the key, as when you look at the backloaded schedule that they face. But again, Nick, it's been awesome talking with you. Tremendous insights on the Broncos and what's going on with Teddy Bridgewater, and great takes on the play calling situation with Denver, because that's something that we're going to watch very, very closely. When you, like you say, when you have weapons, you got to think players, not plays. How can I get my players on the field producing and helping? You talk about a quarterback that obviously makes great decisions and is a great intermediate and short ball thrower. The tight ends are those guys' best friends. And I want to talk about something else, because you and I hit on this, and I thought it was really interesting. We talk about The knock on Teddy is can't throw the deep ball, right?
Right.
You valid or not valid?
That's the most cockamamie crap I've ever heard. Because to me, that's the low hanging fruit. Oh, he can't throw the ball. I heard the same thing, and people here around Denver say the same thing about Tom Brady. He's a noodle arm quarterback. He's not going to go to Super Bowl. But what did we all just watch? We just watched a 43-year-old quarterback with a so-called noodle arm win a Super Bowl. So when we look at explosive plays, and that's what everyone wants a chunk splash plays. The average starting, throw for a splash play is at 10 yards. No one is throwing 5 explosive plays a game. No one's doing that. You're getting 2 at the most because the first time you attempt it, now the defense they're aware of what you're trying to do. So they're playing to prevent the deep ball. So now it's, can you master the short and intermediate throws? And more importantly, Jeff, it's about ball placement. Can you put the ball exactly where your receivers can actually catch the ball and you have yak yards? If you can't do that, then there's an issue. And Drew Lock couldn't do it. And when I look at another guy I played with, Jay Cutler, guess what? They all have strong arms, but they can't always consistently have ball placement. So why in the hell will a guy have a strong arm, but he can't put it where he wants to? That's just like in baseball, having a guy who can throw gas, but his location is all over the damn place. No one wants that guy.
Well, there's differences between pitchers and throwers, right?
Right.
And pitchers win games. Throwers look good, but usually they're bringing the righty. This guy's got to get out.
Right. Let's go to the bullpen.
It's a great point too, Nick, that when you evaluate long throws, you evaluate deep balls, very rarely is a ball caught more than 47 yards down the field from the line of scrimmage. And every quarterback in the National Football League can throw it 47 yards, every single one. So I agree with you. I think the placement of the ball, the ability to throw your guy into extra yards, how you can protect a guy from hits, those are all the things that I think Teddy does extremely well. And it's proven out over 3 games. I'm hopeful for him because, I talked to a guy that was a teammate of his in Minnesota when he got hurt. And it was devastating emotionally to that football team because he was such a great leader. He was so well thought of by his teammates. And it appears that that's the same situation that they've got happening right now with the Broncos.
Yeah, that's the same situation. And you just have to be a leader of men. And for some reason, there are a lot of teams that like to throw the C on the chest of the quarterbacks and make them captains because it just seemed like the right thing to do. If you're a quarterback, you're the face of the franchise. Some of these guys can't freaking lead, but it's all about being able to lead in those tough situations. Once again, that helps galvanize the team and kind of reinvigorates the defense or the team as a whole to say, you know what, no matter what we're dealing with, no matter how many injuries that we are undergoing at this particular time, we feel as though we can win any game because the guy who's on the center, he's going to give us the best opportunity to win. And I believe Teddy gives the Broncos an opportunity to win.
All right, Mike, come on out here. I gotta put you in front of Nick because I know that you probably have your orange underwear on today because you are one of the biggest
orange underwear.
You are one of the biggest Bronco fans that I know. What's your, as a Bronco fan, as a card carrying member of Bronco Nation, what's your take on Bridgewater?
I was very much in the Drew Lock camp at the start because I just didn't see the point in not giving him another chance. But I've been very, very much proven wrong over the last 5 weeks. Drew Lock will probably never play another down for this team. Teddy Bridgewater has done fantastically well. And even hearing what Nick has said there about the way he's played or the way he's acted in training camp, I think just cements that. So I'm excited. I think we're going to go 4-0 on Sunday. And yeah, all good.
All right. Well, again, there's your take right there, huh, Nick? You convinced one guy. At least of all those Teddy Bridgewater haters out there, you convinced one today. So again, great job. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. Welcome. Look forward to having you again down the road. You're always welcome.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. And Mike, as we say on the Nick and Sisu show, get on board.
Hey, speaking of that, before you go, tell our fans how they can get, because now you can get radio all around the world. How can
Yes.
they get to the Nick and Cecil show? You're at 6 o'clock in Denver, 6 till what, 10?
6 to 9.
Okay.
6 to 9. 6
They
to 9
actually
here,
get, they can
Mountain
actually
Time.
get you, they can get you out of there at 9 o'clock. Cause usually it's when you start talking, it's, I used to call you CNN cause you're talk 24/7.
Well, hey, we're on location tonight doing fantasy football, and that is always a difficult thing when you're out live on a remote and fans are around and you're telling stories and they're asking questions. So it's been very difficult for me to get in and out. So I promised my wife that I'll be much better at it. But if you want to check us out, Denver Fan app. 1043 The Fan, definitely check us out on Mondays and Thursdays. We do a Twitch show because Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football. And you can also find me Nick at Nick Ferguson _25 on both Instagram and Twitter. So definitely check us out. It's a real fun time. So just like Jeff said, it is hard to kind of cut away and just kind of go and cut because I like to talk.
Hey, man, thank you very much. You can talk on this show anytime.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, brother. Love you.
Love you too, man.
Hey, what a fun guy to have on the show. I tell you what, he never disappoints. Always does a great job.
4-0, Jeff. 4-0.
You know what? I think I agree with you. I think that's, again, Baltimore's got to convince me yet. Baltimore's got to convince me yet. And I'm going to tell you something. I believe Fangio will have a great plan in place for that offense. That defense of Baltimore has given up a lot of points and a lot of yards. So I think it's going to be a great football game. And certainly if they can get past that one, they've got a beat up Steeler team the next week. And then now you're talking about 5-0, and who knows what happens after that once you play with that kind of confidence. Hey, talking about a guy that's got to have some confidence is our next guest. Lee Wakefield is a huge, and I mean huge, and I'm going to say this the right way, and I'll probably screw it up while we're doing this interview, but I'm going to say a huge Los Angeles Charger fan. Now, Lee, I got to tell you, for a guy like me, that's really difficult to say. I have to physically think about calling them the Los Angeles Chargers as opposed to San Diego Chargers. Just like my Raiders, I'll still call them the Oakland Raiders. I guarantee it. A pretty good time to be a Charger fan right now, buddy.
Man, nice to see you, Coach, first of all. But yeah, man, it was a good game on Sunday, wasn't it? I think I've just about calmed down from that result. I've got to say, typical Chargers took it right down to the wire. Tony Romo was questioning the clock control and the game management at the end of it. But, these are the things that are sent to test us as Chargers fans. And, to get that one, I think is really big for this team. I really do. To come overcome that team, a really good team, probably the best team in the NFL potentially. But yeah, no, it's huge. It's huge. And it just shows that this team is potentially different to what we've been seeing over the past two regimes under Mike McCoy and Anthony Lynn over the past 8 or 9 years. You've got a new quarterback in there, a new head coach who's really inspiring. And I think, it's going to mean that the arrow's pointing upwards for the Chargers organization as a whole moving forward, because I think this is a big statement win. It just shows that, we can mix it with the best of them.
Well, I think it was interesting, last year when the Chargers beat the Chiefs late in the season, everybody talked about, Mahomes didn't play and this and all that, and again, those are valid points because Patrick Mahomes is a great quarterback and a great player and key to that whole Kansas City operation. But the thing that I see about the Chargers, these Chargers don't blink. They don't back off. They're not afraid of competition. I watched the Dallas game. I think, frankly, they should have beaten Dallas. They had a couple bad plays in the red zone and penalties that hurt them. But I'm going to tell you something. That young quarterback, Herbert, is special guy.
He can spin it, right? He can really spin it. And, to go against Patrick Mahomes last year in his first ever game, with about 2 seconds notice, and, he went up against him, went down the field in his first drive, scored, ran it in himself, it showed confidence. And, he mixed it really well with Patrick Mahomes in that game, and now he's come back. Like you say, they didn't play each other in Arrowhead last year because the Chiefs were resting all their starters. That's the privilege that they earned. And now he's come ahead and he's beaten Patrick Mahomes in his own stadium early this season. like I think a lot of the commentary teams and a lot of the media's kind of jumped on this straight away. But this is a birth of what could be one of the biggest, rivalries in terms of quarterbacks for the next decade plus. And it's a little bit different to the rivalries that happened where the teams weren't in the same division together, because we're guaranteed Justin Herbert versus Patrick Mahomes twice a year for the next 10 years. And that's something special to look forward to, whether you're of a Chargers persuasion or a Chiefs persuasion or just an NFL fan, right? Because these two quarterbacks are really, really special. And I believe, and you Broncos fans who are listening and the Raiders fans that are listening and people who are not Chargers fans will probably say I'm being a little bit biased when I say this, but I think these two could be the best two quarterbacks in the league, maybe as early as next year that we could be saying that.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. This division is, and it's been this way for a long time. This division is really, really tough. And you look at, we just had Nick Ferguson on, who played for 9 years for the Broncos and was on some of those great Bronco teams. He talked about the possibility of 3 teams from this division making the playoffs. That'll be if they don't cannibalize each other on the way to the playoffs. Because I'm going to tell you something; those are going to be battles every single week.
That's it. I was joking with some friends that I podcast with, saying it's kind of a shame that you can't get 4 teams in a playoff from one division, because we believe, amongst ourselves as a group, and I'm completely on board with this sort of thing because I see these teams every, twice a year, every year. I think that these teams are capable, if they weren't in the same division together, of winning 10 and 11 games each this year, because you look around this division and every team's got a really strong roster. I heard a little bit of your conversation with Nick just at the end there, and he was talking about Teddy Bridgewater. Every team seems to have got a quarterback now. John Gruden and Derek Carr seem to have finally, got it together. We've just talked about Herbert and Mahomes. Every team's roster is good. Every team's, got star players. Every team's got the sort of roster that can put up points and also keep them out the back door as well. So, yeah, this is the best division in football for my money. And again, I might be biased on that score again, but yeah, there's going to be some battles, and it's like I say, it's going to be a little bit like they're going to eat each other alive a little bit, as you mentioned before, cannibalizing each other a little bit. But if one team can kind of come out ahead of everything like that, then they're going to show themselves to be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the AFC, and be going into the playoffs absolutely flying and not fearing anyone. And I think that's what you're seeing from the Chargers, going into Kansas City. Like you say, not blinking, going for it on 4th and 9 late in the 4th quarter and going for the win, because I think that's how you've got to beat these teams. And I think that's what you're going to see, that mentality from all these AFC West teams. They're all going to be going for the win against each other because they'll have to, because otherwise they're not going to make the playoffs.
Well, let's talk about this now. Again, Coach Lynn, I thought was, again, I'm a big fan of Anthony Lynn, and I thought he did a great job. It got away from him in his last year in Los Angeles. And again, the move from San Diego. I mean, there were a lot of things that he had to deal with that were really tough. But I think you've got one of the bright young stars in coaching right now, Brandon Staley. Talk about what you feel he's done for that franchise.
I think with Anthony, like you said, he has dealt with a lot. He dealt with the move, and he was a good manager of that move from San Diego to LA. And he also managed the move from one quarterback to another. And it was forced upon him, to start Justin Herbert, like I said, in week 2. Everyone knows what happens to Tyrod Taylor. But I do feel over the time that he had with the Chargers in his 4 years, it went a little bit stale. I feel like the message went a little bit stale, maybe to us as the fans, but also maybe to the players as well. I feel like the adjustments weren't there in Anthony Lynn's the latter part of his tenure as coach. But I feel like what we've seen through 3 weeks of the season with Brandon Staley, Joe Lombardi as well as the offensive coordinator is they make adjustments on the fly. They're not afraid to change the game plan if it's not working. I think we saw it as early as the first drive on Sunday. The first drive for the Chargers offensively was not good. I don't think we threw the ball beyond the line of scrimmage. We made no yards. I think we lost 1 yard. But they came out and they changed the game plan. They started to, do a few things a little bit differently. So I think he's got that innovativeness, if that's a word. And he's able to, like I say, make adjustments on the fly. And he's also bringing a new energy. He's bringing a new energy. You've got him bouncing around on the sideline. You've got him, everyone's seen maybe the Chargers social media, him giving post-game speeches that bring a tear to your eye just after the game is finished. And that's what I think he's bringing. I think he's bringing innovation and new ideas, new energy. And, he's big on relationships. He always mentioning relationships, in the media, in his press conferences and things like that. And I think it's sincere. I think it's genuine. It's easy for people to come out and say, oh, yeah, I want to be, good friends with my quarterback, know about the family, ask about this, ask about, how's their family doing, how's their mum doing, things like that. But I think it's really genuine and sincere, and I think the players are getting that. And what he's managed to do is gravitate towards the players with the most gravitas themselves, like Derwin James, Justin Herbert, Joey Bosa, and he's made them feel really special. And I think everyone plays better when they're comfortable, they feel special and having fun. And I think that's what he's installed, as well as his, like I say, his innovativeness and also his energy that he's installing around the program.
I'm glad you picked up on that, because one of my greatest mentors in this business, a guy I was fortunate enough to have a chance to be around both with the St. Louis Rams and the Kansas City Chiefs, Dick Vermeil. He was that very same thing. He was a relationships first coach, and he used to say, Lee, and I thought this was a great quote. He said, players have an incredible tolerance for praise. And that, that's really true. When you can make people feel good about themselves, feel good about the organization they work for, feel good about going to work every day, I think you got a great chance to handle the adversity that comes in every NFL season. Because one thing I tell my players all the time, every year, is one thing I can guarantee about pro football, and it's the only thing I can guarantee about pro football, is you're going to face adversity. And Absolutely. How you handle it is so critical. Because, the Chargers are riding high right now, but there's going to come a point in the season whether it's maybe an injury or a couple bad weeks, they're going to have to, they're going to have to dig a little bit. And I see that in this football team. I watch them. Not flawless, I mean, it's not beautiful yet, but boy, I think they're an exciting young football team to watch.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you mentioned that it's not beautiful yet, because I think that's one of the most exciting things about this football team. I mean, through 3 weeks this season, we've played 3 really talented football teams. We've played some really, really good teams, like I say, potentially the best in this past week. And it's not perfect. We're still costing ourselves games with illegal shift penalties, like we did against the Denver, not the Denver Broncos, the Dallas Cowboys. And, we had that same penalty again, costing us on a 4th down. Fortunately, it went the right way this weekend. But, this is the growth that we can see from this team. It's a young team. It's a young head coach, and it's got a lot of growth to go through. We've got some imperfect players, and players who, a little bit nicked up already. Like you say, we've not suffered that big injury yet. And as a Chargers fan, we'll say that very, very quietly, because we know what the injury look's been like over the past few years. But there's plenty of room to grow. I don't think you're banging the head on the ceiling yet with this team through 3 weeks, looking pretty with a 2-1 record. And that's good, because we've got some good, really tough games coming up as well, and some good battles coming up as well. So if there's growth to come, that's exciting for me as a Chargers fan. And yeah, I'm looking ahead, thinking I think we've got a real chance in these tough games coming up. The Raiders, who are undefeated, the Browns, the Ravens, who are 3 games before the bye. And now I'm going into that optimistic, because I can see, there's a lot of potential in this team.
Well, I tell you what, your punter, Ty Long, who's an ex-player of mine, I had Ty in 2018. He speaks in glowing terms about their locker room, about the vibe that's with this team, about how close this football team is. And again, all really positive things. And that's not a knock on Coach Lynn, but he said it's night and day difference, in terms of how this team gets along, does, works together, competes against each other, and again, all positive, really positive signs. You mentioned your podcast. Talk to us about your podcast, Lee.
So I podcast for a brand called The Full 10 Yards, and our mission as a group is to really draw attention to British football and the British game, Britball. And we look to raise money and awareness for the British game. And we, release things like draft guides towards the draft season. Personally, I'm a big college football fan, so I work a lot on the college side of things. And we've also released a season guide just before the NFL season began. Funds from those 2 guides and other things that we do as well, they go towards funding referee courses and also coaching courses in the UK. And we try and just fund as many of those, because we know without those guys turning up on the weekend, the game doesn't work and the game doesn't get better in this country. And we've seen innovations like the NFL Academy and things like that. And hopefully we're just trying to be a part of that journey for British football in this country, and, trying to improve the standard and hopefully get some more British guys into the NFL. That's the end goal for everyone over here, isn't it? And make this game over here, just as special as it is in the States. And I mean, obviously we're a long way behind that, but, we try and play our part in that. And, we cover everything that's content for everyone. So NFL content, college football content, betting content, fantasy content. If you love football, come and see us, listen to our podcasts. and come and read our content, because it's all fantastic. And not only the on-field talent that we're trying to promote, but also the media talent as well, because I think we've got a whole bunch of really talented guys in this country. You know, I'm on with one here, Michael, your guy. He's definitely one of those guys. I know he's over in Ireland, of course, but yeah, I think amongst our staff and amongst a lot of people, you know, there's a lot of great podcasts out there, and I think we're just trying to fly the flag for the UK market and also this game in this country as well.
Well, I'm going to give you a guest. All right, we have a guy who's playing for us. I don't know if you saw. I put our picture together on Twitter last week. He is a graduate of Britball. He is a young English kid, David Nzinyan, who came up through the London Warriors program and was in the NFL Pathway program, I believe, and played in Germany, and then got involved in the globalization project that the CFL has taken on. And he is here and doing an extremely good job making the transition from linebacker to defensive end, and really, I think, has a chance to be a really, really good young football player. And he'd be a great guy for you to talk to about his journey across the pond to chase his professional football dream.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we'll have to get his details and we'll get him on as soon as we can. Absolutely.
I'd love that. I'd love for that to happen, and I'll be more than happy to help us put it together. Michael, get out here, man.
Hello.
Did you hear how Lee referred to you?
Yes.
The glowing compliment that and I wasn't talking about your media ability, but he said countryman, so he called you English.
Here, I thought Lee spoke very well, and thank you very much, Lee, for that very kind comment. And a beer will be on me next Sunday morning in Tottenham for sure.
Hey,
yeah, absolutely.
Lee, it has been an absolute gas having you on, talking about your Chargers, talking about your podcast, and again, really, this is what this fan forum section is all about. An opportunity for you guys who are such great NFL fans. And again, I appreciate all you're doing to help grow the game in the UK and in Britain. I think that's awesome. And again, I salute to you and everybody that's involved in that project.
Absolutely, guys. Well, thanks for having me on. And Jeff will be seeing your Raiders on Monday night.
The Raiders. All right, man. Thank you.
See you later, guys. Take care.
Great to have you with us. What a great guy, huh?
He was the guy that done the Chargers pick for the draft. Do you remember? He was
I do. Yeah, I do.
The GM room in the back and everything.
Yeah, I do. It was great.
Jeff, there's loads of comments here, man.
Well, let's hit them. Let's talk a little ball with the fans.
Right. So basically, Periscope, which was a Twitter app, died. It's gone. But basically now manually, I can put the comments on manually. So folks, I've been putting them on manually. So apologies. Owen Thomas has mentioned the Raiders here. He's clearly very happy.
Hey! They're all coming out of the woodwork now. Everybody that may have fell off the bandwagon, the Silver and Black Nation is growing. The Raiders.
Oh dear God, Fred! There's loads from Fred Flunk here. I'll get into this.
Hey, Fred. Fred had a great take about the Cowboy defense this week, and I thought it was really, really good. He says, "Jeff, how dialed in do these Cowboys defensive rookies appear to be in Quinn's ideas? Early in this season, I know, but man, oh man, Trayvon Diggs, what a football player! 3 interceptions in 3 weeks." Parsons is a dynamic playmaker. No matter where you put him, he can play all over the field. I see Van Der Esch playing better than he's played. Smith playing better than he's played. Still a little bit concerned about that bunch up front. But I tell you what, they are playing hard. They're playing together, and they're playing smart football, and that's outstanding. And that's Dan Quinn's fingerprints. Owen says, "Hey, Coach, do you think Tomlin could bench Big Ben, or would he just walk away if he was?" I don't know about that one. That would be a real tough thing to have happen in Pittsburgh. Obviously, you're talking about an iconic Hall of Fame quarterback. But again, Mike Tomlin's paid to win football games. I thought it was interesting, Tomlin's comments this week about there's no panic. There's no, everybody else is pushing the panic button in Pittsburgh or in Steeler Nation except the football team. And again, they've got some growing to do. They got to get better on the offensive line. And certainly, I think Ben's still in the formulative stages of feeling comfortable in that offense.
Jeffrey, before we look at the the games this week. There's a lovely comment here. What's going on in KC?
I tell you what,
Ryan in
Ryan, it's a great question, and it's great to have you on the show. I think this is the thing that you're seeing in Kansas City. Kansas City is not playing very good defense right now, and really not being what Kansas City has always been, which is very good at protecting the football, very good at protecting the quarterback, very good at understanding situational football. They have not played a clean football game yet, and they have not played. And I'm not just talking about their ability to protect the football. I'm talking about their ability to you know, you see things like Edwards-Hilaire's fumble, the no-look pass that gets intercepted. I mean, it's almost like they're playing outside of themselves, or they believe too much of their hype or whatever. I think they've got to settle down and get back to, playing Kansas City Chief football. And if they do that, they'll certainly be one of the teams that we'll be talking about in December and January for a playoff spot.
I'm not complaining. Let's have a quick look at these games, Jeff. If you want, what's your thoughts on this classic tomorrow night, Jaguars Bengals?
Well, I would tell you, I would. I don't know about that, Michael. I don't know if you can go that far, but I tell you what, I do like the direction that the Cincinnati Bengals are heading. And again, they're going to have to keep Joe Burrow healthy. Their defense is a little nicked up right now, but I think they're going to be good enough. They're playing with confidence enough. They're at home against Jacksonville, and the Jags have got a long road in front of them before they're a good football team.
They have a long road in front of them because they're getting on a plane in a week and a half to go to London, maybe. But Bengals by 20, Jeff. Browns Vikings. That's a really intriguing game. It's in Minnesota. The Vikings had a great one last week. I don't know, man. I'm gonna take the Vikings.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something. I had this discussion today with Neil on Inside the Huddle, and he's a big Kirk Cousins fan, but I'm not sold yet. I am not sold yet on that Viking defense, and again, I think Cleveland has a very, very good football team. You saw just how nasty that front can be last week when they went in and sacked Justin Fields 9 times. I think they got a good offensive line. They got great running backs, and Baker, I think, is really starting to play inside Kevin Stefanski's system. So I'm going to take Cleveland in that one.
Ooh, I'm seeing the Broncos game isn't on 9 o'clock, but the Cardinals against the Rams instead of the Broncos against the Ravens. Cardinals-Rams is a great game. The Rams, Jeff, how good was that last week against the Bucs? Who have you got there, man?
Well, I tell you what, I really like that Rams football team. Obviously they're great on defense. You got Donald, you got Floyd, you got all kinds of defensive guys, and the thing that makes the Rams most attractive to me is what you see from Matthew Stafford. When the Rams have had trouble in the past, it's when they couldn't run the football and they didn't throw it well enough to be able to throw it, to be able to run it again. Now I see their ability to go vertical with the ball. You saw Deshaun Jackson's influence. Cooper Kupp's having a season. Van Jefferson's a good player. They got Woods. They got all kinds of talent. Higbee is a better than average tight end. So they're not as one-dimensional as they were previous. The play action stuff is still going to be there for them. But again, Matthew Stafford is, he's the difference maker in this Rams team. On the other side, I was not sold on the Cardinals coming into the season. I thought that the quarterback was way too up and down. I thought they were kind of like a team with a bunch of personalities. And I mean, like, one week you get the good Kyler Murray, and the next week you get the Kyler Murray that, I don't know whether he was hurt or what it was. They seem to be more consistent. This is a huge game for both these teams, but I think for the Cardinals, it's even a bigger game because this would be a statement win against a very good football team who just beat the world champions and beat them pretty handily the week before. So I tell you what, I'm saying Cardinals in an upset.
Ooh. 2 weeks ago, I would have said the Cardinals after watching the way that Matthew Stafford played for LA and that team played last weekend. My God, they have a team, Jeffrey. They have a team.
Yes,
I don't want to focus too much on it. I'm going to take the Rams, but we have to talk about this last game. Second last game. The Bucs, Brady going back to New England. Jeff, I've worked at 7:50 a.m. on Monday morning. I have to stay up for that. I have to stay up for Brady going back home. I mean, surely the Bucks are going to win, yeah?
I think this game has the potential to have a higher viewership than even playoff football does. Now, I'm not going to say the Super Bowl, but I think the entire world will be locked in to watch this one because you talk about all the subplots, all the stories. Tom Brady going home to a place he was at for 20 years and won Super Bowls against the greatest coach of all time. And, again, so much has been made about how, how that split came at the end and, who wanted Belichick doesn't want to talk about it. And you know how Belichick is, as prickly as he is right now, by Friday afternoon or Saturday's press conference, it ought to really be fun. But I think it's going to be a great football game. I think that obviously the Patriots know Brady extremely well. They know what he likes. They know what he doesn't like. Gronkowski's an interesting guy to throw into this mix, and I just really feel like the Bucks are more talented. Now, the Bucks are struggling a little bit on defense right now because their secondary is all chewed up. They're not getting the pressure, and whether that's because they can't play man-to-man in the back end or whether, I think that goes hand in hand. I look for them. They signed Richard Sherman. I don't know if that's the answer, but it certainly helps you. It's a veteran player that will go out there and give you a veteran presence. I just don't see enough weapons in New England. I like their young quarterback. They've got a better than average offensive line. They can run the ball a little bit, but they don't have any receivers that can separate. And that's going to make, it's going to make the quarterback's job even tougher. So I think I'm going to take the Bucks in this one.
I think Brady and Gronk's going to go and ball out. I think they're going to score over 40 points. You're going to see we Patriots fans crying and Brady's absent. I know for you this is the most important moment of the week. It won't matter though when the Broncos have went 4-0 for the West and stuff. But I'm joking. But great game, Jeff, Monday night. That's such a good game for a prime time Monday night football game. That's a big game for the Raiders, Jeff. If they can go 4-0 against that Chargers team, that is
huge. And I mean, you want to stay ahead, no matter what no matter what you say. And this is the same thing with the Broncos. The Broncos got to keep winning, just like the Raiders have got to keep winning, and the Chargers have got to keep winning, because Kansas City's going to be there. You know that they'll get their problems fixed, and they're going to be there in the end. So you want to stretch your lead as fast as you can and make it as big as you can. Big, big, big game. And I think it's particularly big game for the Chargers because they don't want to go to 2 losses, right? And obviously the Raiders would love to be 4-0. I like this Raider offense. And, again, let's give Gus Bradley some love here, right? He's done a great job of getting that defense to play better. That Crosby kid that he's got, the defensive end that looks like Flopsy Mopsy. Man, that cat just makes plays. He's got a great motor. I like this Raider team. When they get Jacobs back, I think they can really be salty. So I'm going to take my Raiders.
I mean, it would suit me for us to both go 4-0 and let those two teams sort of, but I don't know. I can't call it yet, Jeff. I'll call it at the weekend when I have to think about it. I can't call it, but man, it's great to chat to you. I'm not sure when we should go live again next week. Should we do like a London special on the Friday? I don't know what to do.
You know what? Let's do a London special, and you've got some. You could announce something big today. You want to announce it on the show? Can you hit it on the show?
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, I'll happily do a London special, probably maximum next Friday, right? I can't do Saturday because it's just I'm going to sleep. We are doing a live show on the Sunday at 9 a.m. both weekends, and the rooftop opposite the stadium, and yeah, it's going to be nuts. I'm going to try and bribe Rich Eisen and Neil Reynolds to come up for a coffee and speak.
That's not the same rooftop that the Beatles performed on, is it?
No, it's a secondary school that has a rooftop, that hire out a rooftop, and we've encouraged them to give it to us for the crack. And then I'm going into the stadium immediately afterwards, 10:30, and looking forward to it. Like, look, it doesn't matter who's playing. It's the first time in 2 years since the NFL has been close to home, and it's going to be a great weekend regardless. If it's us 4 just sitting there chatting ball, I'm excited for it, man. And we'll try and find the technology to get you on. I don't know how it'll work.
Tell me about the meetup that you had in Dublin. I heard it was crazy.
Yeah, so we done one in Dublin 2 weeks ago. It was nuts, and then we had one in Belfast which was great last Sunday. And you know, like whenever Lee was on there, that Chargers Chiefs game was just, it was nuts. Like there was a load of Chiefs fans from Belfast on. There was 4 or 5 Chargers fans. There was a woman on from Canada as well. She was a big Chargers fan. So like, look, that last 5 minutes in that game, I've never heard a bar like it. It was just screaming. It was crazy. And then obviously around the same time, the Ravens got the field goal. So it was just like it was great fun. And look, it's great to see the game growing outside of the States and stuff. So looking forward to London, Jeff. I'm scared about the lack of sleep I'm going to get, but I think we should definitely do something closer to the games next week. Maybe we can get some guys on for London. I don't fly out this Saturday, so if you want to do next Friday,
let's do it. I'm going to tell you something. Let's do it because, again, those London games are my favorites next to the Super Bowl of all the games every year. And, again, while I can't be there because I'm over here coaching, I can be there in spirit, and we'll do whatever we can do to spice it up a little bit from the London games.
Yes, sir. I will represent you in spirit at both games. The Jets, etc. So it should be good. But no, Jeff, great show today. Really good viewership as well, and just thanks to everyone that's watched it. Have you any final comments yourself, Jeff?
No, I just want to say that again. I really appreciate the fans that stay with us every week, and again, the thousands of hits and viewers that we get. It's really a blast. Obviously, this show came to be because we wanted it to be the fan show, and certainly, the tribe. We love you, and stay with us. Keep calling in, keep writing in. And again, hit us with any questions you have all during the week, and we'll answer next week live from London.
Well, I'm not going live from London, but we'll.
Well, I'll be live. I don't know about you, but I'll be live.
Live from Stansted Airport. Leave it with me, and I'll see what I can do. I promise I'll see what I can do. Maybe on the Saturday.
That's why they call you Magic Mike, dude. That's why they call you Magic Mike.
Cheers, Jeff, and thanks everyone watching season. Mahalo.
All right, aloha.